about sports.
All right. Good night from the blessed tundra that is Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm here tonight with Chris, Shoeless Joe Fletcher, Gary Happy. Okay, Gary Happy Kid.
That's me.
And Dave Buckanola.
All suspended for life.
A little close. Yeah. I'm never making the Hall of Fame. Okay? I'll be upset with you guys now.
Well, I know I can get in the Hall of Fame by paying admission. Look at that.
Pretty much. Same here.
Well, one of the few joys of life, and probably the greatest compliment in TV history, and a man who made the Hall of Fame he juiced before entering, Larry David. Tomorrow, is it season 10?
I'm not sure what season it is, but it's kind of
The new season. The new season. Excited? I think it's going to be, he's been, what, 3 years since the last season?
Is he back on HBO?
Is it Curb Your Enthusiasm starts tomorrow night? Yeah.
Okay.
New season.
Okay.
New season. So, one of the great episodes of all time, Larry being denied entrance to the Hall of Fame because he was juicy.
I didn't see that, but I could imagine.
Yeah.
I don't have HBO anymore because they dropped boxing. So
Yeah.
report back to me.
And after we're done, I think I'm going to drop after the season. I think I'm going to be with you. But,
I got to cut my cable bill of $50,000 a year. It seems so. That was one way to do it.
yeah, certainly, certainly. But we're going to talk a little tonight. I'm going to kind of throw it to you. As I apparently am having some audio difficulties here, so I'm going to attempt to fix those in a second. But we will start with tonight's subject. And let me say a few things about it before we start. Whoever decided that this was a referendum on Pete Rose, I'm one who felt it's a museum, celebrates great careers, and Pete Rose should be allowed in. That being said, quit with the poor Pete stuff. He's a scumbag. I don't care if he ever gets in the Hall of Fame. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. This is not the same thing. It has nothing to do with Pete Rose. And he got what he deserved. Let's not forget that he didn't admit to gambling until he had a nice contract in front of him to write a book about. So let's get that over with. Let's also get it over with a couple people who want to make this a referendum on the 1919 White Sox. They took money for throwing games. Has nothing to do with somebody cheating trying to win games. But that being said, we need to take this seriously as something that is to the integrity of the game. This is bad. This is a bad thing.
Yeah.
This isn't
Very.
a guy trying to catch fastball signs hitting at second base. This isn't something even as bad as the 1951 Giants with Howie Shen's in his telescope in center field, which is bad. Don't get me wrong. But this has altered the course of history in baseball. This has altered 2 World Series victories. I'm going to read you some stats because as we talked about several times, there was no reason for it was kind of strange that the 2019 Red Sox, or 2018 Red Sox, were as good as they were with people they had on the bench. It was not a 108-win talented team. Is this coming across really bad?
You can hear you. It's a little muffled.
A little jarbled.
Yeah.
Okay. But you can hear pretty good?
Yeah, I can understand. I can understand you. Yes.
Okay.
As much as we can ever understand you, Dave.
I knew I set that up for Chris to hit that golf ball.
It's okay, man. It's okay. I'm complex. Okay? I'm complex. But in 2018, at home, the Red Sox were 282, on the road 255. 482 slugging percentage, 426 on the road. The year before, they hit 269 at home, which might have been a more talented team. They scored as many runs, well, they scored less runs actually at Fenway than on the road. Their slugging percentage was only 10 points over the road, and they had one more total base. So very much in line. So you can see that despite what I would feel not the greatest talent in the world, that there was a definite effect in Boston. Houston, from what I'm told, had an even more severe effect. It's an arrogant organization. It's the only thing, when I first thought it was more aggressive than the NFL. I was thinking they did the right thing until you really talked about it.
I think that's where I am. Yep.
I mean, $5 million was nothing in a thing. In baseball, losing 2 draft picks is bad, but it's not as bad as any other sport where draft picks are more a crapshoot. No players are mentioned here. From what I'm told, they were all given immunity. But, you know, they certainly should be people under effect there. I was never up for the NCAA taking away victories, but you know what? In this situation, taking away World Series championships seems to be appropriate. To me, this is nothing more than Manfred being a little better than the NFL, but still more interested in doing the right thing for his owners rather than the right things for the game. To me, this is another black eye. While I'm working on my audio, Gary, why don't you talk to me a little about this?
Well, you know, it's funny. When I first saw it, I think perhaps maybe we've all kind of been frustrated on the way Major League Baseball has been managed, both by the organizations as well as that office in New York over the last few years. So at first I was thrilled, but then for a lot of the reasons you touch on, the more I start to think about it, I hate to say it, I think this was a 2020 appease every party in the chain and make it look like we did a lot type of solution. When you think about it, you know, the Astros have gone to the postseason, what, 3 straight years?
Yes.
And they've had, what, 10, maybe 9, 10 home games every one of those postseasons?
Yeah.
Well, that park seats, what, about 45,000? It's full.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you want to assume an average ticket? $100?
Yeah.
So you're making $4.5 million. Now I know you got expenses with the staff and native end, but you're making $4.5 million for each one of those games, or a little less. Let's say even $4 million. Okay. So they've had what, 30 home games, $120 million of revenue. Fine, take 50% expense off, $60 million. You find them $5 million of $60 million. Where's the penalty?
Right.
Where's the penalty? Now, I'm not sure it's going to be equal. I understand all that. You know, just because they did do some of this stuff doesn't mean they would have won all those games. But the penalty is minuscule when you think about it, okay? I go back to the same thing I said about some of the other stuff that we've dealt with. It seems like more of the stuff we're talking about on these shows, it's just amazing. Maybe even sports is affected by the rest of the way the world is. Corporate America, the Sports Illustrated stuff that Chris talked about a number of episodes back, the ethics of it. I'm sorry, Mr. Crane. You had some idea what was going on, or you are an idiot. Okay, this guy's a multi-billionaire, Texas investor, all this kind of stuff. he's not aware of what a multi-million-dollar investment like this, some of the stuff that's going on. That is a total crock. That is, to me, a Manfred and the organization. I know he works for the owners, but that is basically catering to somebody that he thinks he still needs. Okay? Maybe you can't force him to sell the team, but the penalty should have been a lot more severe out of his pocket, which is the only way you're going to hurt him. $5 million of, I don't know, 50, 60 million of just gate alone, beyond all the other stuff coming from these postseason appearances, is not enough to me. Now, if you want to make the argument that they weren't found guilty of cheating in 19, okay, fine, 2 years. $5 million is still a minuscule amount versus a $35 million that coming in from just the gate alone, not even the other revenue in this postseason. And I agree. In baseball, even these top picks are a crapshoot, particularly if it's a pitcher. 2 years, first 2 picks, took 4 draft picks away. I'm sorry, not enough. 5 years maybe. 5 years you take it away. That's a severe penalty. Some teams are going to think twice about doing this kind of thing.
How about not allowing him to draft at all?
Or not draft. I'm saying maybe not draft at all. Maybe not draft at all for a couple of years, or it's got to be more severe than what was handed out. Again, I go back to appease everybody, make it look like I did something, kind of solutions we've seen, whether it's corporate America or sports or anything else in America right now. I hate to say it. I'm not making a political statement, but it's a fact. When you think about how this was all positioned, I mean, I give him credit for doing something pretty significant versus some of the other things we've talked about, like the NFL and stuff like that, but it didn't go far. Now, I don't know the rules, so maybe I'm talking a little bit on my proverbial rear end. Maybe he can only find a certain amount under the –
That is the maximum under the Constitution.
So maybe that is the rule, so maybe I'm talking out of my can a little bit. But then you got to find some other kind of solution if it's not just monetary, because I just don't think it was enough. I don't think – it's easy for Crane to get up there now and say, oh, you know, we believe in ethics and we believe in proper competition, when the penalty wasn't that significant. And, you know, as far as stripping the titles, I mean, you know, I think something like that, you know, would it really change the game's future if you did that? If there was no title listed for, I don't think it would stop fans from coming through the gates. I don't think it would stop fans from watching again.
NCAA basketball survives like that.
Yeah, would it stop the interest in this? Would it stop some of the future interest in this for the casual fan or even the diehard fan? Would it alter the course's history that much? I mean, we willingly stopped the World Series for just pure monetary reasons in 1994. So what's the big deal? I mean, I think that might be enough. That's a little softer, but that might be a solution here to me. But you know, I don't know. I mean, I don't think it's going to be enough, even with some of these firings. You got fall guys. It's symbolic. It looks like you did something. I don't really think it matters that much. I mean, I think the couple things that jump out at me that really are alarming. I don't know. Did you guys see the video with Farquhar in 2017? Did you guys see that video? The White Sox pitcher?
No.
Take a look at that. That's out there on, I think, even some prominent sports like CBS Sports. It's very clear. He's pitching in Houston. It's like September 22nd, 2017. There's nobody in the park. Houston were probably already clinched. Game didn't mean anything. It's fairly empty. You can clearly hear before he goes to delivery. He started changing his delivery and stuff because he was on to something. You can clearly hear banging in the background. Bang. Now, this wasn't somebody altering a video with taking all the sound out like there was out before. This was a live broadcast on MLB.com. You could clearly hear it. He catches on. He turns around a number of times towards the center field fence, kind of like, what's going on? You can just tell, like it was one of those gut things. He calls his catcher out, a guy by the name of Smith. They talked for a few minutes, and then there were no signals after that. Why didn't MLB do some investigation into that at that point? Why did they wait?
By the way, as an off thing, that was Kevin Smith.
Okay. Okay. I didn't know. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But it's funny though. Why was there no? Now I'm not sure you bring it up until you have some facts in any kind of investigation. But we didn't hear about this till well after that period.
Because you didn't have the Stooley making a thing about it. They wanted to hide it.
But you had players who were talking about it, Gary. I mean, and it got to the point where you know how players intermingle now, and it would be to the point where the players would deny it to each other. So there are a lot of personal relationships that have been messed up by this, because people basically lied.
Totally.
I guess the question you have to ask if you're those guys is, was it worth it?
Well,
They got a World Series ring out of it.
I think if you're the player, you know, they're going to face some abuse, you know, crowd abuse, but that'll quickly pass. You know, the players really aren't going to be hurt that badly in the pocket. Some of the front office executives and stuff, if this gets further and it spreads to other organizations, I mean, you know, Luno clearly was not somebody that most people in MLB wanted to deal with at all, from everything I've read.
He's an ass. He was an arrogant ass.
An ass, right. And, you know, I mean, honest to God, you know, like, it just shows the last.
I was going to hold up my Pusher of the Week sign, but the Astros stole the sign.
That's good.
But you know, you almost have to call them the Houston Asterisks after this. I mean, it's not. I'm with you guys. I think you take away the crown. So there's really nothing else that you can do on that.
And you know, I've been a heavy critic of that with the NCAA. But in this situation, it seems right, because in the NCAA, it was more somebody was taking money rather than you literally were changing the course of the game.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing about it, guys. I mean, Dave, as you mentioned, sign stealing has been a part of the game for years.
Yes.
But to the length that they went to do this is really what makes it incredible.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're hearing today that there may have been sensors put in uniforms that would actually buzz.
Which, I mean, that takes it to a whole nother thing. How, if that is correct, and I have no reason to think not, how do you not start going after players? How do you not take a World Series away? This is bad. This is, to me, a worse scandal than steroids.
I agree. And Gary, one other thing that happened in this that you talked about is what happens today is you attack the whistleblower, and that happened as well.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a big problem with her like a lot of people around baseball did. Honestly, compared to Rodriguez and the comments he makes on his Sunday night broadcast, she's a breath of fresh air. At least she has some idea what she's talking about, as opposed to using the word "I" all the time.
Yeah.
But that commentary is just beyond the pale. Like she's almost like her and some others, like encouraging, like, to keep it inside. So encourage this kind of mess. I mean, you know, the part about it that I think I don't know, Chris, I don't know if I sent this to you, but I sent it to Dave, or maybe I sent it to both of you. It's almost like the Penn State arrogance. I mean, I'm not comparing the two crimes. They're totally different. One's against innocent children and stuff. But my point is the arrogance of, like, MLB and even the Astros again. Like, what did Fires go 15-6 or something? I mean, he had a pretty damn good year there. They didn't even offer him a contract. What did they think he was going to do? Not blow a whistle? You can see he's a hard guy.
Again, the senselessness of thinking that somebody wasn't going to do anything.
Yeah, like I guess they thought that it was just so insular and so the culture is so strong, like us, you know, in this fraternity, that they're not going to. I mean, how arrogant is that? Like, how stupid, number one. But I'll tell you what I am bothered by again, and it goes back to, again, MLB enforcement. If you go back to that Farquhar incident, even if you couldn't investigate and players have started to talk, like Chris said, you know, in like hockey, you have representatives from the NHL that go and make sure that the ice is a certain texture and temperature. And if it's not, you got a problem, okay? In football, I don't know, that Patriot thing, I'm still not 100% sure about all the stuff that they've done, numerous things, and they're doing it in practice and stuff like that. But during the games, I think the NFL has representatives that go and check certain things, like the ball and, like, wraps on players. Where's MLB with the enforcement of this? Like, you're telling me with all the money flowing into this business and they hear about this kind of stuff, they didn't have any representatives they would send to these parks and say, something seems fishy out there. Would you go take a walk around or go take a look at that video? Like, MLB just completely I don't know. It just seems like this was all going on and they didn't care at all, whether it was for money or whatever. And then when they realized, oh man, on top of every other problem we got, now we got to have this. Then they started to step up the look at it. Like,
am I not correct in thinking you have two guys at every game assigned to make sure nothing funny is happening?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. How much would that cost you in $1 billion?
They have it.
And
I want that job.
Why were they not doing that? Why were they not, like, what the hell? What would you mind telling me what this damn trash can and this this like huge monitor. What's this doing right here? Like, what the hell were they doing?
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's so it looks bad all around. But yeah, I think versus steroids, it's far worse. Now, going on Facebook more, there's going to be a lot of people who aren't going to agree with us about that. But
because they want Pete in the Hall of Fame.
well, I mean, to me, this guy he was a manager. He had a managerial spot. He was an executive. He's betting on his own team. Beyond the nature of him, I mean, that's a totally different. That's got nothing to do with this to me. The people bringing that's got nothing to do with it to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, but I think it's far worse because it impacted the outcome of the entire game. The steroids thing, and I think one of you guys pointed out, or maybe someone did to me. A lot of those chemicals were not illegal, and the Players Association was so strong. It's still wrong what they did, and I'm not supporting it, and I hate what that did to the integrity of it all. But the fact is, there was no regulation of it until they realized they had a serious problem there. The Mitchell report came out, and they better do something to lose their antitrust.
Right. Well, here's the fallacy about that. There was no illegality in Major League Baseball. In fact, the abuse and the purchase of those were illegal in the country.
Totally agree. But my point is if you're doing that, you're doing that to yourself. Now, you are altering the outcome, and you're profiting and taking money out of somebody else's pocket per se. But this whole thing is an organized scandal to take money out of organizations' pockets and plenty of other organizations and stuff like that. And to me, it's a far worse offense, and I think the penalty should have been more severe.
Well, I think for especially for the managers and coaches, should have been a lifetime ban. Number one.
Yeah, I agree. The more I think about it, I totally agree.
The fine.
I recall at Rainier's house, you had one of the most intricate sign stealing systems of all time. Were you not banned from playing at Rainier's house?
But it's funny. I had interviewed Andy Van Slyke years ago. And one of the things we were talking about pitchers and sign stealing, and he said, one of the things, if you're really observant, you can tell when a pitcher is tipping off just by maybe the way he gripped the ball a certain way, but certain aspects that he had. So, I mean, they've been looking at this stuff for years. What brings it is the pure level of maliciousness in this. We saw more fallout today. Carlos Beltran gone from the Mets before he even started.
Yep.
Here's the funny thing. Remember how we thought the Pirates were going to be the last team to find a new manager before the next season? Not anymore.
Yeah. Right.
And one other thing, guys, we need to think about, and this is going to be a lot like the steroids thing. Don Kelly, hired by the Pirates.
I was about to ask you that. First base.
Is he involved in any of this? You don't know.
You don't. Well, the other thing is, if Beltran was the mastermind, as it seems to be noted, he was with the Yankees last year.
They're next on the list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're next on the investigation list. That's what I heard.
I mean, this thing, I guess it's fair if every team cheats, but this thing is going to have far-reaching effects here. And what are you going to do about it?
Well, I mean, I think some of the solutions are simple, like we said. If you got people representing MLB, have them do the job. Don't be just socializing with people in the organizations. Do the job you're supposed to. Make sure the bats and the balls look legitimate or aren't being juiced up by being frozen too much. And if you hear there's some rumors of something going on, do something about it. Report on it. Maybe you got to get better people. That's one place to start. But I think with regard to the sign stealing, if you're sitting there watching a pitcher and he keeps tipping his pitches the way he's turning his gloves and stuff, I got no issue with that, man.
No, I don't either.
I got no issue with that. But when you start using video equipment and phone and this kind of stuff, that's a totally different animal.
But you know what? In many ways, the NFL was a lot smarter than MLB because they destroyed the evidence.
They did.
They did.
We laugh about it, we get pissed off about it, but it's probably the right thing to do to protect the integrity of the league.
Yep.
I hate to say it. It sounds unethical in itself to say that, but the truth of the matter is, at least you don't have a public relations problem lasting for a long time. and particularly for a sport that really has got some real challenges to begin with. Let's face it.
Yeah.
So it comes at the worst time in that regard. I mean, I don't think it's. I think some people won't care. It's the same thing as the steroids, or they're not going to care. They like going out and having a hot dog and a beer.
Well,
Play
and there are people who are convinced that stealing signs is just part of the game. It's no big deal.
There are.
Bullshit.
Not orchestrated using of technology, not recording stuff, not.
Here's my other problem with that. I'm a borderline major leaguer. I'm hanging on by a thread. Other people are getting this advantage that I'm not getting. I'm out of a job.
Yeah.
Totally.
Not right.
Totally. And that's, some people made that argument with the steroid situation too, with the money grab and the fact that, and in a way it did happen, like I think because the money went up so much because of all the home runs and stuff for some of those guys using steroids, or pitchers, piling up the strikeouts or lasting forever. It's always that middle of the road guy that ends up getting sacrificed. So I'm surprised. I would have thought there would have been a little more outcry than there's been. And maybe it's just such a tightly knit society. There's been a few guys who have been critical of it, but there hasn't been a tremendous amount of outcry about this across the major league players group. Again, surprises me again, because you're right, Chris. Some of these guys they've gotten really hurt by this, and they're probably out of a job, and God knows what they're going to be able to do next at the same money.
Doesn't that say that maybe this is bigger than we're thinking, and the players
Right.
are talking because, they may be participating.
I mean, the fact that it's been as quiet as it, a few guys came out. I saw Freeze and a few other guys, and Oswald's comment didn't make any sense to me. One he made, I saw the tweet he made. But
I think Oswald's trying to tie this into steroids because he's always been one who's was very bitter about the steroid people.
Yeah.
So I think he's just trying to make an issue.
Maybe. It didn't make any sense in this regard issue. Some guys, current players, came out and criticized it, but it hasn't been as much as you'd think. Now, I don't know. Maybe they've been told to keep their mouth shut. It's interesting when I talk about the 2020 solution to try to appease everybody like we really did something here. It's clear what Manfred emphasized twice, or somebody emphasized, that was it the Red Sox, that they really can't. What they say 7 times, they said they can't answer that question. Or they got to have more time to evaluate something in their press conference. Maybe they've all been told, okay, got enough of a black eye here, so just be quiet. That could be.
Well, they probably were told that because there were some teams that were about to come out and do some heavy bitching about it.
Right.
Who ended up backing off. So, yeah, they were told basically to shut up about
it. But I guess the other thing that just stuns me, you mentioned arrogance. With the way players move now, did you think that this was not going to get out at some point?
That's my point. That's my point about the fires to start and others. Yes.
It just the sheer arrogance of it all. And you can't look at those players. You can't look at Jose Altuve in the same way anymore. You can't. You don't know what you have there.
Yeah.
I don't know if I mentioned you, Chris, and I'm not trying to say that I knew it because I didn't. But then that 17 World Series was the Dodger one, right?
Right.
Springer and him in particular, they were crushing those balls. How are they doing that? It looked different. And I remember thinking, in fact, I think I might have said something to you, man, are they on these pitches? What are the Dodgers doing? You're right. There's a stain now for a good long period, and there should be. I never loved them anyway. Honestly, I thought they were the most you hit a double, and they're all posing by I know that's the way the game is today, but they were one of the worst in terms of the histrionics for a simple play.
Yeah.
That group, I couldn't stand them, but that's a personal thing. But yeah, it's not going to. The organization now is going to have a long time to overcome this, and the game will too. But particularly Houston and perhaps Boston as well. And if it's Yankees and others, then they should suffer the same fate.
Well, I'm going to give Boston some credit, and also the Mets some credit of parting ways with their manager.
Yes. Yep.
I'm not going to agree with that. I think that was a PR thing. I think it was probably negotiated where Cora and
there's no doubt that they didn't land on their asses in a very horrible way. No question about it, but they had to do it.
Yeah, they didn't have a choice. How could you keep Beltran at this point? That's the one thing with the Astros firing the general manager and the manager, they kind of left Boston and New York with no choice.
Right.
Right. I agree.
You know, and Gary, I don't think the Astros are going to take it's going to take a long time to rebound. I don't think they give a damn. I think they got what they wanted. They got their.
Well, I meant just the fan perception. I meant the fan perception of them. That's all.
Perception outside of Houston.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't think the fans in Houston are making excuses like I'm sure Pittsburgh would do if.
Yeah, I mean, certainly there's going to be people doing that. Certainly there are. But I think, you know, as Chris talks about, like Altuve and that MVP type of year, there's going to be people who have a brain and paid attention to this and understand a little bit of it. You know, like, well, I don't know. That's as tainted as somebody hitting 73 home runs. It was used beyond belief.
Sure it is.
I mean, it's just the same kind of taint now that you're probably going to carry with you.
This is a bad taint, but I think they got off scot-free. I think they're still probably, if not the most powerful team in the American League, in the top two.
It's where I started. As I think about this more, at first I was happy, but the more I think about it, I don't think it was enough financial damage. I don't think it was enough organizational damage. And I think it has done little effect other than maybe a public relations problem to that particular organization. And I don't think the discouragement was enough. One of the things I saw on Facebook was a guy said, well, would you trade? And I started thinking about the revenue from all the playoff games that Houston's had. He goes, would you trade a $5 million penalty every year for a World Series title? Of course you would.
Sure you would.
Of course you would. That's not enough damage. Not enough damage.
No, but the financial damage wasn't going to do anything. Where you could have gotten them was, taking them out of a draft completely.
Well, but I'm saying financial and organizational damage. That would be organizational.
You could have got them by suspending players that were involved. Of course.
Well, that's where you go.
Before you got the information.
Well, didn't the Chicago White Sox also have immunity?
Yeah. They did.
So, I mean, I
think I'm a little disappointed.
I think this influences people more to do it rather than the opposite.
Well, I think because of the ultimately, the more I think about this, I don't think the penalty was enough, and I think you're right, Dave. I don't think it's the discourage. I don't think the pain and suffering in any way, operational or financial, was enough. But I think the part that kind of bothers me a little bit too, I don't know if I would have said we've made the decision that we can't really blame any player and it's too impractical. I would have said the investigation will be ongoing.
Yes.
I think that's another thing. Like it's like with federal crime and money crimes. If you steal money like in Wall Street or something like that, you're subject to continued investigation for an extended period of time. That ought to have been the case here in my mind. So I'm a little disappointed at that end of the result too, because he kind of said, I'm closing the book on this. We may figure out some ways to enforce non-cheating through electronic means, but he didn't say we're going to go further and dig deeper. He didn't say that.
No.
So
more stuff's coming out every day. Maybe there will, but I'll tell you what. If I'm pitching, the first time Altuve's up, I'm drilling his ass.
Totally agree. I agree, and I think, if I'm with any organization, maybe not even them so much, but I don't care where I'm going. I don't care if you lost 108. Okay. I'm sending my own people, because obviously Major League Baseball is inept at this. I'm sending my own people to look. It's like wrapping hands in boxing. I'm sending my own people out to center field fences. I'm going to everybody's video room. How in the hell did they not notice there was a towel blocking the runway down to the Astros? What were these teams doing? What's this towel? What's this blocking this for? I'm going in there.
Who would have thought Major League Baseball would have been the worst run league in professional sports?
Hate to say it. Yeah.
It's just from top to bottom. They don't grasp what their problems are. They're probably the most arrogant, and that's something to say when you're talking about the NFL, but
yeah,
probably the most arrogant owner base in professional sports. And I at some point in time, it's going to get to them. At some point in time, they're not going to get billions from TV revenues if the TV revenues keep going down.
I think it's heading closer to problems becoming that way. Yeah, I do.
And suddenly Gary Bettman looks confident.
Certainly more confident than what we're saying. Hard to believe, but it's true. It's true.
It's just, I mean.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I still love the game, even with its ugly play these days. You only can take so many batteries though before your product is really having a real issue. And I don't think this wrecks the game like some people predict, but it's certainly not helping it. There's enough problems to deal with.
That's what I'm saying. This is not what they needed after they got all their fans back by saying relief pitchers have to pitch to 3 batters. So that got a lot of their fans back, and the youth of baseball is now saying, hey, I want to get involved in baseball because I have to pitch to 3 batters.
Well, you got to be careful of honesty and integrity. Here's my biggest fear now, that it's going to come out that the Pirates are also stealing signs last year.
That's going to be
frightening.
Remember how you felt when there were more Pirates on the Mitchell report than just about any other team, and they were still losing.
I mean, if the Tigers lost, 158 or whatever, and they were stealing signs, you talk about abuse from the fans.
Yeah. We're bad and we're cheating. We're cheating.
I mean, it's pretty frightening. So, but I mean, if I'm running an MLB team, beyond just Houston and Boston and whoever, I don't care if it's Detroit. I'm looking at everything. I'm sending my people there ahead of time. And what's that? What's that? Like, it's like you turn the light on the roaches scatter, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'd be doing if I'm running an MLB team. I'd hire a couple people.
I think it's going to be really interesting for some of those players who are going into arbitration. I think if I'm on the other side of the table, I'm going to say, well, we're going to throw out all of your home games now.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's where it's funny. They really did hurt themselves, the players here. They did. They really hurt themselves in those regards. So, because there's going to be the negotiations can be much tougher. Discussion's not going to be as easy.
Well, there's going to be a stoppage. I do think that.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do think the game.
I do too.
I think we're headed for a first time a serious discussion about salary caps.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Clark actually, ironically, it's funny how the world changes. Clark's kind of on our side about you need a floor.
Yeah.
He's kind of like with us. He's kind of agreeing with us on that.
Yeah, you can't have a cap without a floor.
He's with us on that.
The floor is more important than the top.
Yep. Interesting topic, though, man. Always something, isn't it? So
it is something, and we'll be back in a little bit. We're gonna talk about, among other things, why do we feel the need to mix ketchup with mayonnaise and sell it as a condiment? I want you guys to get your head around that first. We'll be back.
All right.
All right, my friends. Still blustery. Gary, if you get the chance, please let Patty know. This is the 3rd soft game in a row for Jardy so far. It's about knowing him as the Johnny Bauer. But tonight,
we're gonna need them both. They're gonna need them both to go deep, I think. So.
Well, we're here with Chris Enos Fletcher.
Country Slaughter, baby.
Yeah.
Gary Trigger Kin.
Trigger. that can apply to a lot of different industries.
I'm going to take Dave Woody Finoli.
Yeah, good.
But there's Viv will appreciate that, but there's a
We'll see.
Won't damn it. There's a nickname here, Ray Nathan, as a country nickname.
Ray Nathan.
Ray Nathan. Okay.
I saw Jeff Foxworthy years ago, and he kind of talked about something like that. That's interesting. I remember what.
You tweet us, though, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah,
The slack-jawed yokel.
Fletch, Cletus Fletch.
Well, guys, this week, if you're a Steeler fan, you got some great news. Seeing with Bill Cowher and Donnie Shaw getting invited as part of the centennial class for the NFL Football Hall of Fame. I have mixed feelings on it. I really think Donnie Shaw is deserving of the honor. Bill Cowher, yes, but a lot of the people who are going in, I just think it's going to be a very crowded stage. You're going to have 15 of those guys plus 5 others. It just does. It takes, to me, it takes away some of the shine of what they've done by having such a huge class like this. Yeah. And both for Cowher and also Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson didn't win 100 games as a coach. Now you can make an argument that he brought back a great franchise. You can also make an argument that his work on TV certainly pushed him over the edge. And I'll buy that part of it. But not how I wanted things to go in like that. I'm hoping that we'll also see Troy Polamalu and Alan Faneca, and so it'll be a very big Steelers class this time. But mixed feelings on it. I don't know what you guys think.
I don't think Cowher's a Hall of Fame coach. I love him getting in. Don't get me wrong, and I think he's in because of his TV work as much as anything. I think it's both coach picks. Certainly smelled of let's make a PR move on the
NFL. But I think John Madden, you can make that argument. His contribution to football is as much his TV work as his coaching.
It
was, but I think he was a better coach than both of those. I think he was
around quite a bit longer. I mean, he was late 60s and stayed quite a bit longer than I think these two guys too. But fair enough. TV is certainly a factor, maybe. Yeah. I mean, I think Shell was very underrated to me. I wasn't.
Shell, I think, was penalized by the fact there were so many Steelers.
So talented.
He deserves it. Absolutely. A safety with over 50. The first one, if I'm not mistaken, with over 50 receptions.
Yep. He was a punishing hitter too. I mean, he was a factor boy out there, and always underrated. People don't talk about him like they talk about all Green and all the others. But I mean, he was a fantastic player, and I do think both Polamalu and Faneca should get in there. I mean, they should be getting in there at some point. If they don't, I think they ought to.
And it was good to see Jimbo Covert. I went to elementary school with him.
Yep.
And I knew him then. But
you think that's throw him over the top?
Yeah. It was that. But I just I did think that Cowher was borderline.
Yeah, I think it's borderline. I mean, people in Pittsburgh aren't going to like us saying it, a lot of them, but I feel that way.
Well, I think Tomlin's a better coach. I
do too. I think the resume's better over a longer period and a lot different conditions.
Well, listen, if Cowher's in the Hall of Fame, Tomlin better make it.
That's my view. That's my view.
Set that up. I think Troy is probably a sure thing. I would think
should be.
Faneca may get hurt by this.
May.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't agree with Cowher's assessment that he was the best run blocking lineman in the history of the game. I thought that was quite a reach, but I think he's a deserving Hall of Famer.
He was probably the best of his time there.
Yeah.
I feel that way.
I question how close L.C. Greenwood came so many times, why he wasn't included in the at least the final candidate list of the vintage class for this. I certainly think he has every credentials to be a Hall of Famer.
But again, too many Steelers.
I think it's being penalized the same reasons we talked about. They're so damn good. It's like people are getting they whether or not there were so many on one team or not shouldn't matter. But I think it is hurting. But
here's the thing that does, Dave. That even elevates that 74 draft class to another level. Although technically Donnie Shaw is a free agent signing, but still,
he was a rookie, so it's legit. It's part of the rookie class that year. That's impressive as hell. What also was impressive is 4 members of that 1980 Pitt Panther team are now in the Professional Football Hall of Fame.
Right.
The same amount that are in the College Football Hall of Fame. Of course, Hugh Green and Mark May replace Ricky Jackson and who the hell else did make it? And Russ Grimm isn't in the College.
Russ Grimm, yeah.
But I think, to me, those are 2 incredibly impressive stats.
And 11 WPIL players.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's a legacy that probably not thought about as much anymore, as this become more globalized. But boy, you think about that Western Pennsylvania football legacy in that period of time, that 30 years, it'll be a long time for any part of the country that ever matches that. So.
Well, you think about it, and I don't know who the 6th person is. I'm sure I could look it up. But there's 6 rookies from 1974 to make it into the Hall of Fame. That, to me, makes it more impressive that 5 of them were Pittsburgh Steelers.
I know, isn't that amazing, that front office work that was done? Yep.
Yeah, that's incredible.
But, I mean, proof that 1980 was probably the best Pitt football team that we've seen.
Yep.
The best all time in the program's history.
Yep.
Not the national championship, of course, but what talent was on that team. I mean, so that's 6 of those players are either in the College or Pro Football Hall of Fame.
That's huge percentage, boy.
Yeah.
Any team.
Pretty amazing.
Absolutely. Do you think this is going to hurt Alan Faneca?
It's hard to tell. I mean, you never know what goes on in that room when the people stand up and make the cases for all those people,
Yeah.
I think that you haven't had a guard go in a while.
Yeah.
You got a lot of wide receivers that are hanging out there.
And it's not a hugely impressive class as other years when you could kind of see he had the potential to get pushed to the side.
Yeah.
To me, he's one of the top 5.
I think so. But the other thing that's most likely to happen too is that the Steelers will be playing in the Hall of Fame game.
Yeah. It should be, maybe.
And if you've never been, it's kind of a neat. I went there in the 90s. I forget when it was. They were playing, I believe, the Saints. But it's a neat experience.
I'll bet it is. Yeah.
It's god awful hot there, though. Jesus.
Oh, it is. But I was up there this past year, and whereas it looked like just a very big high school stadium, it looks like a gorgeous bottom, at least a collegiate stadium, if not a professional. The additions they did to what I guess is now Tom Fear's, or I'm sorry, who the hell is it? Who's the New Orleans owner? Tom Benson.
Yeah.
Tom Benson Stadium.
Benson, yeah.
It is. If you guys haven't seen it, take
What
a
do they use it for? Like, do they use it for like the high school playoff?
a couple. They had 2 colleges from the traditional African American colleges come there this year.
Okay.
They also have a camp that they do throughout the year too.
So they're getting some revenue out of it too, which is
Yeah,
good.
and several high schools in the area call it home.
Yeah, good. I mean, I've never been there. Some days coming soon. I'd like to get there.
I think of all. Here's how I would rank the Hall of Fames: Cooperstown 1, Canton 2, hockey 3, basketball 4.
I would agree. You got basketball.
Never been to the boxing Hall of Fame though. That's on my list.
You've never
It's
been
a very small, but it's well done. It's very well done. It's very small, but very well done. Syracuse, basically.
Basketball does some neat things by including people for achievements as much off the court.
Yep.
As well as on it. I mean, let's face it, Chuck Cooper, Earl Lloyd, or Sweetwater Clifton probably wouldn't have made the other 3 Hall of Fames, but
Right.
they made along with Composi.
Mhm.
Yeah, I made this one. But it's more a kid-centric Hall of Fame in Springfield. A lot of things for kids to do, a lot of interesting things, but I wouldn't necessarily call them things that give you goosebumps as far as history like baseball and football.
Mhm.
I think for football, it's just that Hall of Busts. When you go in there, that's just
Yeah, that's
it's
cool.
inspiring.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean the plaques in baseball are good, but I would imagine those busts are. That's got to be striking.
The plaques to me are I like that a little better just because the cathedral-like atmosphere as you walk in there.
Yeah. Big room.
But the way they have situated the bus now as compared to what they had in the past, they just rearranged that a couple of years ago. It's now very impressive as you walk into this room.
Yeah, I would think because it piled up over the years. Yeah.
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 You know, the one thing that hit me, and I'm ashamed I didn't know that, I didn't realize Alex Harris wasn't in the Hall of Fame already.
I didn't either.
He was apparently part of this class.
Yeah. Steve Sable.
Steve's, well, there's a guy that deserved in as much as his father deserves in. He probably deserved in more because he took it to another level.
Yeah,
did.
no question about it. No question about it. It's amazing. It's right next to me here. They don't really take a lot of people. You can't go in there. I mean, they have a small thing where you can go in, but really can't wander in there. It's really studios and stuff. It's almost a half of an office park here. How big it's got. NFL Films you're talking about, right?
Yes.
It's half of an office park about 10 miles from where I live. They don't really take a lot of people in through it. I mean, I guess they have some tours and stuff for some school kids and stuff. There's not much. They don't sell much there, but it's half this office park. It's so massive. So
That's impressive.
mhm.
Have you've been there, I assume?
I've been there and gone in, but like I say, there's not much to see. They don't have a lot of stuff for some outsider to come in there. They don't sell a lot or anything like that. So it's mostly studios.
I would buy a hat, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, I could certainly wander over there again. I haven't been there in a while, but I could certainly do that. I might do that, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but my love for football grew from NFL Films.
Oh my God, it's fantastic! It's fantastic.
The music, I have a 10 CD set of music from NFL Films.
Yeah, I mean that's where the ESPN Classic being lost is a bad thing. It's been boxing films and the NFL films because ESPN Classic ran those all the time. I'd watch that sometimes all day long.
And Home Run Derby. Don't forget Home Run Derby.
That too, yeah.
Well, let me ask you your trivia question of the night. How many teams in the NFL were there? And then who was there?
Oh, there were 27 teams in the National Football League, and then there were the Pittsburgh Steelers.
That's right. Facenda. John Facenda.
Well, just like there were 13 teams in the Atlantic 10. And then who was there, Gary?
What's that?
There are 13 teams in the Atlantic 10. And then there are
There's the Duquesne Dukes.
Speak of them, my friend. Speak of them.
I mean, it's funny. You would think that you would say you were more impressed with decisive victories and a smooth offense and some of that stuff. But going back all the way through, after the bad Marshall loss, which I didn't see, because it wasn't televised, at least here. But then you start looking at these other games where against teams that you think they would wipe up, but they were really getting pushed, whether not Davidson so much, but St. Joe's. I mean, after that St. Louis victory, it looked like, this is going to be a lot easier than they thought, but they're getting tested heavy in these last few games. I feel like the biggest challenge Dambrot has right now is it seems like the offense has gotten kind of clunky. I don't know how you guys feel. Like they don't have a lot of movement.
Well, I think the guards have played a little stiff the last couple games, and to get the inside game you need to have the threat of the outside shot.
You do.
That'll come around.
The bench is getting shorter, fellas. The bench is getting real short right now. They're basically playing 7 guys.
It is. Yep, it is. But I think the thing that's impressed me the most, and it makes me feel pretty good about this continuing for a while here, and maybe they can do, a little bit more than, a lot of people still, I think, are skeptical of them outside of Pittsburgh. But when these games are on the line, they are making the plays, particularly Carey. Weathers in a couple games, Hughes as well lately. Even the kid was Austin, Maceo Austin. I mean, they're making the plays when the game on the line, even in games that, quite frankly, they're not playing very well. So, like we always say, good teams win games they shouldn't. Of the last 4, you could say that 3 times, and they've done it.
Well, but don't forget. I mean, Austin's sister had died, and it sounded like listening to the players, they were trying to press a little too hard to win that game for him.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of looked like that.
I mean, he's had some games where he's been kind of non-existent. Perhaps I'm sure that has something to do with it. But when he needs to make a play late in the games, he's made them too.
Right.
So, for a true freshman. So, yeah, I do think the shortening of the bench, I mean, I don't know. Is something wrong with Rotroff? Because he doesn't play at all. I don't understand that a little bit. Like, a big body. I know he's a little slow-footed, but he's a big body. Certainly can skull.
He's coming off the knee injury.
I know. And at 6'11", I know that's a major injury. But he's not playing at all, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the shortening of the bench does concern me a little bit. You still got a long way to go, and then you got, the tournament where you got 4 games in 4 days potentially, or 3 games in 4 days. I mean, I'm a little bit concerned, but on the other hand, there's some real tests coming up. I think the Dayton game's going to be a real test.
Well, Dayton's not a full strength either, so that's a good thing.
It is. Luck it out that way, but I mean, that's going to be an interesting test, I think.
Here's the thing, guys. I maintain that they need to win 1 to 2 tournament games, conference tournament games, to get into the dance.
I would agree with you.
I think right now they're looking like a 12 or 13 seed, which I'm not going to complain about.
Give me a 16 seed.
Hey, give me a play-in. I don't care.
A seed at all. A seed at all, I'll take. Right, exactly.
I mean, what they need to do is, I think, 12-6 and a tournament win or two. Gets them in.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep, that's what I feel as well. But I mean, I like to see. These are still kids. People forget that these are 18 and 19-year-olds, and it says something to the coaching staff again. But when particularly that game last night again, that game that they really should have lost that game the way they played. He really should, but they didn't. Again, when he got to that 5 or 6 minute mark, they're making the plays at the key time, and that to me is very impressive.
And guys, this is a team without a home court.
Well, that's the one thing I think that's gotten them the best press across the country is, even here, there was an article here. It wasn't an Inquirer, but it was one of the other papers where, they're basically playing they're in Pittsburgh, but they're still road games. These are all road games, and they're continuing to win. So, I mean, that's impressive as well. I mean, it really is.
I think they're overplaying that a little too much, and that's okay. It's getting some positive press. But point being, it's still only a 20, 30-minute bus ride.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass, though, Dave. I mean, you basically go from your practice, you don't shower, you come home from that. I mean, it's a pain in the ass.
It's like a CYO. It's like when I used to play. I didn't make my high school basketball team a couple years. I was playing CYO. We all jump in cars and we'd go to the gym. You're right. You couldn't take a shower. You jump back. It's kind of what they're doing, probably.
I remember not taking a shower after playing basketball, but that was for different reasons.
Well, the nice thing about it is it's a rallying point for them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what it. I'm not sure it's as dire as what people point out, but they're using.
I agree.
Listen, if you're recruiting me and you're telling me at that point, oh, by the way, we're not really going to have a home court this year, that's not an easy sell.
It's not, but you also have like a very state-of-the-art facility that you're going to be playing in next year. So they do have the recruiting with that. But
just think about that old facility, though. It was obsolete before it even opened. How was that possible?
Not enough money. I don't think they had enough money, I guess.
They didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure why they built the place if they weren't going to fund the program, to be honest with you. I'm glad they did, but think about it. In 1995 or 6, it was voted as the top concert facility, on-campus concert facility in the country, and they stopped having concerts.
Yeah, that makes sense.
For the life of me, I mean, you got to consider the source of the people that were in charge of running it.
Yeah.
The administration couldn't have been worse than when we were there. But yeah, some of this stuff means it continued to still a very bad magnitude.
It continued from an athletic standpoint. Once you got rid of Nesty, from a financial standpoint and from a educational standpoint, you really began the growth of Duquesne University.
Oh yeah, Murray was a master fundraiser.
He
Yep.
just didn't like sports. He didn't.
Yep.
He didn't
Yep.
like it.
Yep. And he obviously didn't like music either. So
And I'll contend he didn't. No, he didn't.
he obviously didn't like music either. So
But I'll contend Harry or Gormley might not have been this aggressive had they not beaten Pitt. And he got a chance to see what sports can do for the community, what sports, the community being the Duquesne community, what it probably did for donations.
Right.
And then only to have, the floor fall out from underneath Duquesne at that point.
Well, I've worked with Gormley on some projects because he was the mayor of Forest Hills before, and I sat on a couple of community projects with him. Very smart guy, very smart guy.
Yeah.
And if you want to know anything about Watergate and Archibald Cox, this is the guy who wrote the definitive book on it. So,
that's interesting. I mean, I'll tell you, when I went to a couple football games, he's certainly energetic, man. He is not somebody that sits behind the scenes. He will go out. He knows how to, shake hands and talk to people. He goes and gets his face in front of a lot of people, obviously, that have some significance to that university. So they've needed that, and that's a credit as well. But I mean, look, the thing about basketball, which I think he also jumped on beyond just the Pitt stuff, in basketball, man, that's the one thing you can really compete. I mean, Gonzaga is a small university.
Yep.
I mean, you can compete in basketball once you get your engine going. And I think they finally have woken up to that fact there again for the first time in decades.
And the money that is gone to Gonzaga, I was reading an article once. It's just incredible the amount of money that goes through that goes to that place.
Yep.
They double the applications every year.
Yep. I mean, it brings attention. It brings major attention.
It brought major money to Gonzaga.
Yep.
And they're in a good conference for who they are.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. That's right.
I mean, Dave, remember a couple of years ago, you and I were talking about going down.
Yeah. I mean that if you weren't going to support the program, why not?
But now I think the Atlantic 10's a good place to be.
Yep.
You can make a Final Four from the Atlantic 10. You
can.
Elite 8 teams over the last decade. And if you can get to the Elite 8, you're one game away from the Final Four.
Yep.
And anything can happen. We saw that with Butler.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
And anything can happen in football, too, including, I hate to say this, a bunch of arrogant fucks that make the Houston Astros look like Bishop Tutu.
Yeah.
Penn State can't keep themselves out of the news for bad things. If it's not hazing for fraternities, how easy is it to stop that? Take the damn fraternity building away from them, and that won't come up. But if you read the lawsuit that Isaiah Humphreys, who was a safety on the Nittany Lion team, has just brought a lawsuit against James Franklin and Penn State. Basically, you look down and you have guys doing just very incredibly disgusting things in a sexual nature to the recruits.
Yeah, these are the baddest asses in the planet playing the most dangerous game. My ass. But continue on.
That's what
my ass.
They tell this kid they're going to Sandusky him.
Yeah, right. Which is completely disgusting. Right.
Is just mind-boggling. You've just been through close to the death penalty, but let's keep bringing him up.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
They threaten to kill the kid. If you're ever in my town, I'm going to have you shot. So this is a group of some very significant players on Penn State that are included in this lawsuit, including James Franklin, who apparently turned his head towards it. And the powers that be, the thing that blew my mind about this is Penn State claiming they already attended to it. They basically suspended one kid for one game.
Yeah.
For this.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna just keep away from what they did because I'm not sure it's right for to repeat on the radio, but it's sickening to boot. It's just disgustingly sick.
Yep.
How do you stop it? how do you stop it at this point? They don't give a shit. You have a huge amount of your base that is still set on renaming Beaver Stadium after Joe Paterno,
Yeah.
who was responsible for how many kids getting molested by turning his head since the 1970s.
No attention to it. Yeah.
Stop talking about the end of his career. You got to talk to the 1970s when these cases first came up that he's charged with. I don't know how you stop it. The NCAA is afraid of them because basically this is out of their jurisdiction. Somehow, I don't know how it is, but that's why they caved in the last time, because Penn State was willing to sue them, and apparently it was so out of their jurisdiction that Penn State had a good chance of winning the suit, which is why they backed off. But this is just sickness, and it's not. I mean, you can always say it's a few bad apples, and yeah, the high majority of Penn State fans, I'm sure, are disgusted by this.
Yeah.
It's a culture now. It's almost ingrained in their.
It's culture. That's exactly it. They have to change the culture there, and you would have thought that program, being as close to the death penalty as they were, that they would have learned something there, and that the coaching staff would be ever more cognizant of issues like that. This is a complete failing throughout that organization. The Board of Trustees needs to step in.
Well, I mean, they vote in Paterno's kid, who basically said he was there to set the record straight about his father. Why do I want that there? I want people who are serious.
Yeah, that's right. You get somebody outside.
Education there. I mean, it's a great university, don't get me wrong, but it's fallen behind Pitt as far as academics. And when we were going to school, Pitt was so far behind Penn State. It was
different, right? It was different. That's right.
I mean, you know.
It's leadership, Dave.
I don't know. When you go there, I'm convinced. One of the writers at Sports Illustrated used to talk about this all the time and said that it was like dealing with the Soviet Union. The school is such a powerful, everybody up there is getting some form of their living related to it.
Yeah.
And I have some friends there, and we do love them. Don't get me wrong. They would be disgusted by it. They were disgusted by some of this. And that's all I can really say. I can't say more about it, but not just the Sandusky stuff, some of the stuff that's going on with the fraternities and stuff. But it's so insular. Everybody's so dependent upon it. I think even if it's going on, it's just so much easier to turn a blind eye. And the media just can't ever get the depth of I'm sure the facts are worse. You can't get anybody to talk. That's the problem. So even when this kid comes out and his father comes out, that's probably only about a third of the story because everybody else is controlled up there. It's kind of a Twin Peaks type of situation. I hate to say it. And that's part of the problem. And I think their geographics, the inability to get there, the fact everybody's so dependent on it, it continues to foster this kind of shit going on. I hate to say it. So if it was in Philadelphia or Chicago or LA, it would have a lot harder time getting away with this shit. And they'd have a lot harder time with the public relations after it either, as well, rather. So
you win 10, 11 games a year. Apparently, you can do what you want.
Right, and it's so much money coming into that small place in a part of Pennsylvania where there's not a lot else going on. That's kind of sets the whole year for the whole area.
Yeah.
It's a shame, but
a little off subject. Jari just let a goal in over his hand.
I understand. I can't win the argument. You need them both. The only way they're going to win it is they have them both. I'm convinced.
But this is to me embarrassing. And why lawmakers are not saying, hey, whatever state substance we give you, we're going to pull it. You fix this.
It's at least in question till you start to answer some of this stuff. Yep.
Yeah. But they won't do it either because I'm sure they're tied in. And Lord knows the state school system is a financial embarrassment right now.
Yeah.
Probably the most embarrassing system in the country.
Yep.
So, I guess those aren't the right guys to depend on to fix it. I just, again.
I can't stand Franklin. I like him about as little as I like Correa and Altuve and a few of the Astros. I'm kind of glad that he's got more blood on his face, but I'm not sure it'll really matter there.
Hey guys, some breaking news here. the Patriots have hired the former Astros guy who's been let go.
They're going to put him in a video room.
Patriot.
They're going to put him in a video room.
Oh man, but no.
Yeah, it just pisses me off. It's embarrassing for the state of Pennsylvania again. It's just awful. I mean, and I guess I've watching more football since I've reconnected with you guys, but it's just the thing about football that amazes me. You know, we talk about all this, we're going to war, this is the hardest game, you know, we're gonna suffer, and then you have this kind of nonsense going on. Like, is that what a warrior does? Really?
And
what a warrior does?
You know, I pray to God that this kid wins his case and at least gets some financial compensation from these people.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's horrendous.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, this should be one of the great weeks of the sporting year. I mean, coming up on the conference championship game, we should all be jacked, and instead we've got two controversies that are just horrible.
I mean, think about the years we've been doing this. We've been dealing with this. Every month there's something coming up that's got this lately. I mean, it's like the rest of the world's now more impacting sports than it seems like it used to. But boy, it's like once a month there's something coming up, it seems.
Well, do you think the Cleveland Brown wide receiver will be flipping cash to the winners of the conference championships this week? You talk about just jerking your school around. I'm sure.
Or will Odell Beckham slap someone on the ass again too? It's just
he turns me off. He's one of the sports figures.
And there was the big divorce today. I don't know whether you guys saw that or not.
No, what's that one?
Rosenhaus has divorced AB.
Oh, yes, he did.
Oh, okay.
Which was smart of it. I mean, it's not making any money off them. Plus, maybe it spurs AB to get a little help. Who knows?
Yeah.
But who do you got this week, Dave?
All right. My prediction this week is, let's go with Duquesne. Goes to 16-2 with a 7-point win at Rhode Island.
Nice.
That'd be a good win. That's a win that'll do a lot for them over the long haul if they get it.
And so, as not to be a pussy, I'm going. I'll go Super Bowl of Green Bay and Kansas City.
Oh, a rematch of Super Bowl I.
I would love it. 53 years later, I would love it, actually.
Of course, this is the rematch in the AFC Championship game of that classic double overtime Abner Hayes game.
Mm-hmm. You posted it. I thought it was a great post. Yeah.
I might have to pull that game out. Dave, you got me the DVD of it. I might have to pull that out, I think.
Absolutely. That was a great game.
All black and white in there. Yeah.
Mr. Ken.
I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm just still so unrounded. I mean, I think Conor McGregor is a world-class jerk-off. But he's also Mike Tyson in that business. And he's coming back, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of attention to this. Actually, he's in pretty tough. He's in with a guy that's gotten better as he's aged. So I think McGregor will win. I think it'll be a lot better fight. And honestly, it's going to be a big event because love him or hate him, he does know how to generate attention. So I predict he'll win. I predict there'll be a big crowd there, and I predict it'll be a pretty good fight because the guy who's fighting Cowboy Cerrone's a pretty good fighter.
All right.
So,
Mr. Fletch, I apologize for the late hat.
That's all right. Dave, I think my heart wants to be with you. It really does. But I think it's going to be the opposite. I think it's going to be the Niners, and I think it's going to be the Titans. And here's the thing that I look forward to if that does come down, that you have your starting quarterback who is run out of Miami coming back triumphantly to play in that game. There's just something about that would be kind of fun to watch.
That's kind of cool.
And has usurped a Heisman Trophy winner's job.
And
yes.
Don't forget, Henry is an unrestricted free agent, and you sign him instead of Bud Dupree. Maybe next time we'll approach him.
Interesting question.
So, all right, and we will talk about war next week, I promise. I despise that stat. We're going to bring it down next week.
You got a few
What
things.
is it good for, Dave?
Absolutely.
Say it again.
Yeah. All right, gentlemen.
All right. Good evening,
Have a
Joe.
good night.
All right.